welcome back to the show. I appreciate you tuning in. Plenty of options out there, so thanks for sticking with us. We've got plenty of good things to get into for this show today. You know, international football is going on. We're well and truly into it. Round one of the Pacific Championships is done. The Ashes series is about to start this coming weekend. Lists have been announced. Lots of news around players, futures, eligibility. We're going to get into it all. Let's quickly recap Samoa versus New Zealand, Fiji versus Cook Islands, and then we'll quickly get into the upcoming first game of the Ashes series, Australia versus England, and we'll talk about what I think will happen in that game, who's actually playing in this match, and what it means for the next generation of Australian players that are currently in the squad and going to be making their debut. But first, what happened to Samoa in that game? Now, obviously, New Zealand were favourites. They have a lot more players with experience, a lot more veterans than Samoa do. But Samoa put up an incredible team to battle the Kiwis. I love the Kiwis. If Australia's not playing, I'm rooting for New Zealand. That's it. That's how it is. But I said Samoa are a good chance of winning that game. And they put it to them. They only lost by 6. So it's a one-score game. They didn't do too poorly. They put up a good fight. Their forwards, Payne Haas, was incredible, as you expected him to be. He was a monster, and I can't wait for his performance against Tonga coming up. But this has always been the case, and it's moving away from this. We're definitely trending in a different direction from the past. It's definitely moving in a much, much better point. But at the moment, you're still seeing this tendency where Australia, New Zealand, sometimes England, where they win a lot of their international football is in the halves. They have the best halves in the world. You see countless elite halves have gone through the Kangaroo sides. Countless exceptional halves have gone through New Zealand. And you're seeing some really good ones in England as well. And that is where those tier 2 nations struggle consistently. Their lack of experienced halves in the NRL, their lack of in and out halves. They have a lot of fullbacks playing 5'8". They have a lot of 5'8s playing halfback. They have sometimes halftime hookers playing halfback. Halftime halfbacks playing hooker. There's a lot of shifting and shafting, and then there's a lot of inexperience in the biggest competition in the world, the NRL. Like I said, we're moving in a different direction where you're seeing Katoa, Funtonga, Luai, obviously, Chanel Harris-Tavita. You're seeing a lot of big NRL stars move into those tier 2 nations, into those Pacific nations, but you still see it with Cook Islands. Granted, Cook Islands, they're an exception because they just don't have a big pool to choose from, at least right now. Fiji, Brandon Wakeham, he never really made it in the NRL. Papua New Guinea, Lachlan Lamb, again, never really made it in the NRL. And you're still seeing it with Samoa. You got Aongi playing in 5'8". No, excuse me, that's Tonga. Aongi for Tonga is playing in 5'8", because they just don't have that second option that they can trust to put in there. And you're seeing it with Samoa. You got Chanel Harris-Tavita playing off the bench. You've got obviously Luai there. He's the captain, but he can only do so much in the 7, and we've seen that play out at the Tigers. And that is where the Pacific nations have always been that step down, where that gap between the tier 1 and tier 2, that gap, you see that in the halves. And that is where New Zealand won this game, because the forward packs, both, they kind of evenly matched. Fisher, Leota, Haas, Junior Polo, it kind of balanced itself out, both dominant forward packs. So where it was going to be won or lost in the halves, how are the halves going to manage the game, how are they going to set up their backs, how are they going to play off the back of the forwards that put in those meters. And you just saw Kieran Foran, exceptionally experienced at the highest levels. And Luai just couldn't really, he built his career playing off the back of Cleary in that 6, running it on last tackle, finding gaps, finding opportunities, scouring back and forth which side of the park he's going to actually try and do something with. So when you put him in the number 7 jersey and he has to take on that responsibility of turning over those sets, having good ends to the sets, trying to get repeat sets, putting up competitive kicks, it's not really his style. He hasn't had, and it's not his fault. I mean, Cleary was there. He didn't have to do this, so he never really built it into his game to be that style of halfback. But you saw that play out on the weekend. Both teams still, it was a really good game. Effort was there, as you always see in international football. The effort is there, it means so much to these players. Both huckers before the game were real good. Real good. It's always really good. It just gets you fired up no matter who you are, no matter who you're supporting. You hear those huckers. You feel those huckers. And you're ready for a game. And I thought it was a really good game. Fiji, Cook Islands, not quite the spectacle of New Zealand, Samoa, but still a good game, still a good chance for these players to represent their country. A lot of them have a chance now to be on a bigger stage and show what they can do. During Bulla, obviously, Bulla Magic, he had an exceptional performance on the weekend, scoring 4 tries for his home country. And that's just what these players love to do. Perform on the biggest stage for what matters the most, their country, their family, their heritage. It's lovely to see as well. All right. Australia versus England. The first of 3 matches for the Ashes series is coming up Sunday morning. And when I say Sunday morning, I mean early morning. What does it start? 12:30 a.m.? So it's one of those shit time zones where it's too late to stay up and try and catch it, and it's too early to get up early and then watch it. No one really wants to get up that early on a Sunday morning, and no one really wants to stay up that late on a Saturday arvo for football. If you're going to do that, you're probably staying up for something else. So it's in that shitty time zone, but we take what we can get. It's in England, so you kind of expect it to be somewhat misplaced on the schedule for us Australians. But, I expect the highlights on YouTube, their views to go up quite more than normal, because I think a lot of people will probably be sleeping, and understandably so. I myself, I'll be watching. It's just kind of the psycho that I am. Team lists. It has been announced. If you haven't seen it, let's quickly run through it. Apologies for the audio listeners. The graphic will be up on the screen for those watching. At fullback, you've got Reece Walsh. On the wings, you've got Mark Nwangani-Tawase, Josh Adokar. In the centres, Katoni Staggs, Gemhart, Shibasaki. In the halves, you've got Munster, Cleary. Hooker, you got Grant. In the forward pack, up front, you've got Carrigan and Tino. Back rowers, Angus Crichton, Hudson Young. At lock and captain is Isaiah Yeo. On the bench, Tommy Dearden, Lindsay Collins, Ruben Cotter, Keon Kalamatangi, and at 18th man, you've got Bradman Best. So 4 debutants there. Shibasaki. Who is it? Shibasaki, Kalamatangi, Mark Nwangani-Tawase, and is it Staggs? It's also debuting. We had a lot to choose from. Obviously, you got Bradman Best in the reserves. You got Mitchell Moses in the reserves. You got Tommy Dearden coming off the bench. And you've got other second rowers like Jacob Preston, who just didn't make the cut. You got Dylan Edwards, who didn't make the cut. We have a lot of talent to choose from, as we normally do. As we talked about this when Kevin Walters got the job. It's very hard for an Australian coach to select a bad team. We just have the best of the best in the country, the best of the best in the world to choose from. Now that dwindled slightly with some players choosing to defect to other countries. Payne Haas, now Hammer, has chosen to defect to Samoa as well. But nevertheless, just means the next best player will then rise and fall into that squad, as we've seen. Now, I have no problems with that side at all. I think it's a strong side. I thought maybe Best would get the nod over Shibasaki, but it just shows what an incredible season that bloke has had this year, starting off the year with only a train and trial deal. That is the bare minimum contract you have to have a chance to play in the NRL for that season, and that's what he had at the Broncos. He then turned that into playing, how many games did he play? 20, 18 to 20, and some of those were only because he then played in the Queensland series for the Maroons as well. And now he's playing for Australia. One of the best turnaround stories that we've heard in a long time, and I hope it gets more attention, and I hope we shed more light on this season in particular, but also the past couple of seasons that led him to be able to put up this type of performance for this season, because that's what's probably more important is what has he done in the last 2-3 years to give himself an opportunity and to give himself this chance to play for not only an NRL club, Queensland Maroons, and now at the back of the season represent Australia and put on that green and gold. That's an incredible story, and I hope it gets more attention as it so deserves. Reece Walsh at fullback, kind of a no-brainer. Now you could stick with the loyalty thing, but Edwards was down on form all year, and right now Walsh is playing better football than anyone else probably in the world. So why would you not put him at the number one position? Take the opportunity while he's red hot. He's going to cap off an incredible season. We just talked about Shibasaki having an incredible season. Walsh, the back half of the NRL season, basically one-man team in the finals, winning it against the Raiders. What an inspirational effort it was in the grand final to win it for the Broncos. And now he's going to be Clive Churchill medal as well. And now he's representing Australia in the number one jersey. Bloke's just had it. Whether you like him or not, he's had an unreal second half of the year. And you can't take it off him because it just shows the raw talent that this bloke has. And obviously he's been working hard, because when you saw him in his early days at the Warriors, when he come back to the Broncos, you saw he had it. You saw he had it, but it wasn't refined. It wasn't consistent. Now he's constantly involved. He wants the ball. It's the style of play he has. He's willing to be tough too. He's developed his ball skills. The try assist, the line break assists, they're up. And when he wants to do something, they just give him the ball and he finds a way and he does it. We saw that in the grand final in that cracker of a try where he just took the ball and just took on the defenders, found a hole and went for it and scored. And that was unreal. And, you know, he deserves it, but he's also earned everything that he has gotten this season. Same with Shibasaki. He earned everything, every selection, every jersey that he's been given. He's earned it, and that's what you want to see out of the players that these kids that look up to, particularly in the Broncos when you have one of the biggest fan bases in the country. You want to see these types of players being looked up to by kids, earn everything that they get. Work hard, that's what you get. The toilet stuff, the other stuff with Walsh, that's up to the parents to decipher what the kids actually look up to. But the effort, earning your opportunities, that's what you can be proud of. What do I think is going to happen in this game? I think Australia will win. I think we'll win quite comfortably. I think the first 10 minutes will be a bit of a battle. England always do put up a fight, at least for the first part, but I think we just got too much eliteness in this team. Australia just too good. We had a lot of those players have decent finals campaigns. I think with Cleary and Munster steering the ship, Isaiah Yeo at 13, a strong bench. I don't see a way for England to win. I do not see a way for England to win. Now, England does have NRL experience. AJ Brimson, Dong Young, Kai Pearce-Paul, John Bateman if he's playing, a couple of others. They're tough. It would mean more for England to win. But I just think Australia, and this is probably the consensus all over the rugby league media and with the rugby league fan base, it's just Australia just too good. We have too much talent. We have the cream of the crop playing for Australia, and I really don't see a way for England to win this. So I think a lot of players will get their chance in this series, particularly if we win the first two quite comfortably. You'll see a lot more debutants in that third game. Which leads us into this next generation of Australians. We saw it. We've already seen it phase out with the Smiths, the Slaters, the Cronks. All of them kind of fall out, retire. We saw that in the last 5 or so years. Now you're starting to see young guns. No more Tedesco, although he would have been in the squad almost guaranteed if he hadn't have pulled out for other reasons, but Tedesco's not there. Walsh is in there, the young one. You're seeing Shibasaki and Nwangani Tawase on the wings. Now Addocar's come back, which was quite a bit of a surprise to me, but there are other young wingers that probably would have got their chance there. You're seeing Jacob Preston come into the side, your Lindsay Smiths. They're there. Nathan's obviously a veteran, but he's still quite young. You're just seeing this next generation of Australians who look to be like they're going to be there for a long time. And once they get more international experience, that'll only do them better and give them a higher chance of continuing to represent their country. And that's exactly what you want to see. You want to see the best of the best, but you also want to see consistency. So that when these relationships are formed, developed on the field, they can stay developed year after year. That's what you saw with dominance, the Kangaroos, the last 40, 50 years. That's what you saw with the dominance of Queensland. It was the consistency in which they'd pick, and you just saw New South Wales every series, every game, they would change it up. Granted, they had to try and change something up to beat the Maroons. But the Maroons were so dominant because they had consistent players that developed these relationships because they were always in the same camp and in the same side. Coached by the same coach. Consistency. It doesn't get talked about enough when you have these same players. The cohesion that they build, it's so valuable, and it's why teams, representatives, countries can be so dominant is when you have the cohesion. It's a skill to keep these players. It's up to the players, obviously, but when you build these relationships within the same players and with the same coaches, it just means that you can do things that other teams just don't do, and it also saves you so much time. You don't have to constantly have a bonding night, team meetings to figure out what's going to happen, who's going to do what. You already know. You're in, you're doing your drills, you're building your plays, and you're knowing what to do, and it just saves you so much more time. So if Australia can blood these players, get these players who have already got 1 or 2, 3 caps to build those up, keep Kevin Walters if this thing works, and then just run with it for the next 5, 10 years. And Australia will be dominant, will stay number one, and other people, other countries obviously don't like it because Australia's been number one for so long, with the exception of New Zealand putting their nose in front every now and then. But we do have more competition. Now, England, I think, have fallen down. They're not quite that second or third team, even though they're still tier one. I think if England were to go up against Samoa, New Zealand, Tonga, they'd probably lose. So Australia does have more competition. International football is more competitive now than it was even 5 years ago. But we're talking Australia, England. I think Australia will win. I think Australia will win 3-0 and comfortably. And I think you get to see a lot of these young Aussies have exciting debuts, and it's only better for Australian Rugby League. Another game coming up. It could be a better game to watch, honestly. Tonga versus Samoa. We saw the hype, the build-up, the feeling that it had with New Zealand versus Samoa. I think you can only double that excitement, double that hype, double that feeling now for Tonga versus Samoa. Now, I saw today it was roughly a 50-50 split of tickets sold to Tonga and to Samoa fans. So they're both going to be there. They're both going to be cheering and getting rowdy and hyping up their team and their players. This is an excellent matchup. Forward pack battle. You've got Aden Fanua-Blake, Taumalolo. You've got Junior Polo, Payne Haas. Similar to last week. New Zealand versus Samoa. Forward pack. So good. So even. Kind of balanced each other out. It's like division. Like long division. You get the same on one side, you get the same on the other, you cross each other out because they balance it out. It's the same with this game, Tonga versus Samoa. The forward packs are that good, but they're that even that it almost cancels each other out. And then you're going to see, how does Luai respond? How does Roger respond? And then how does Lehigh Hopoate, Iongi, Katoa, how do they play? Off the back of their forwards, off the back of the work that those forwards do, how do they then take advantage of that and put something together for their backs? That's what is going to win this game, is who can take the opportunity that these forwards do, reward these forwards with the work that they do and the meters that they gained by setting up the plays, executing those plays to be able to put points on the board. So I think it's a very, very close game. I don't think it's going to be too high scoring, somewhere within that, similar to last week, somewhere within that 18 to 24 range each. I don't think anyone scores 30. I think it's close. I think it's one in the halves. Katoa versus Luai. Bash Brothers in the middle. It's going to be exciting, and I hope everyone watches it because it's worth a watch. This is what Pacific nations have been wanting for so long in international rugby league, and we've seen it drip, drip, drip since 2017 World Cup. We've seen it drip, 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 and now in the last 2-3 years, it's exploded. International football in the Pacific nations has exploded, and this Pacific Championship is what these teams strive for. They want to represent their country and they want to put it on the biggest show and they want to win. They want to win. And they feel like they can. There's no reason why these players are choosing to not play for Australia or New Zealand, to go to Tonga, to go to Samoa. They believe they can win. They believe they can do good things and create this tier one style of football for these respective nations. And you're seeing it, and it's here, and everyone's on board for it because it makes things more competitive and makes things more exciting. There's more better games to watch at the end of the season. It's not just whoever Australia's versing or whoever's New Zealand's versing. It's all of these nations. It's all of these games you get up for because they're exciting. You get to see these players, and you get to see players that you know as well. If you're watching the NRL, you're not necessarily focused on the Super League or the reserve grades. If you're only watching the NRL, now you get to watch Tonga, Samoa, Fiji, Papua New Guinea, and you get to recognize these faces, and that only makes you more involved and more engaged in what you're watching. I know for me, I'm watching Jareen Buller. I'm watching Serena Taruva. I'm watching Tui Kamika. I'm sorry, Tui. Sorry, Tui. You're watching Kikia for Fiji. You're watching Xavier Coates if he plays for Papua New Guinea. You're watching Lachlan Lamb. You're watching, even though he had a brief stint in the NRL, you're watching Kyle Labert, brief stint in the NRL. You're seeing the Luais, the Katoas, the Adam Fanua Blakes, the Taumalolos, the Iongis, the Lehigh Hopewades, the Daniel Tupos, the Sione Katoas, the Roger Tuivasa Czechs, the Payne Haas's, the Junior Polo, the list goes on and on. You're watching these players that you know from NRL, that you know from even State of Origin, and you're watching them in these Tier 2 nations, and now you can be so much more involved and engaged and participate in what you're watching because you're familiar with it. It's like anything. You watch a team that you know no one for, you're probably not going to be too interested in it. You watch a fight in the UFC where you don't know, like in the prelims, and you're not familiar with either fighter. You're probably not as interested in it as the main event where you know both of those fighters and you know who they fought in the past and you know their come-up story. It's the same thing. You know these players. You know what they've done in the NRL. You know how accomplished they are. You know what else they've achieved. You know the other players that they've played with. You know the teams that they've played with. You're going to be so much more interested. And it's only better for international football. All right, we'll talk about what happened in those games next week, but I want to get to this to finish up the episode. I want to get to this because I saw this today and it excited me. It excited me because this will be amazing. Kieran Foran has accepted a job with the Manly Sea Eagles as the assistant coach. Oh, it's good. I've talked about Kieran a couple of times on this podcast. When he retired, a couple of other reasons, but my main message in what I've talked about Foran before is I love how smart this dude is. He's so smart when it comes to the game of rugby league. Granted, he's a half. Halves are smarter than most. They have a higher football IQ than most other players. Sorry to the other players, but it's just a fact. He's also played over 300 games for multiple different clubs with multiple different players under multiple different head coaches for New Zealand. He's so experienced, but he's so smart. I've talked about this before, but his ability to analyze and break down the game of rugby league it's almost better than anyone else I've ever heard of before. Now, Andrew Johns does a really good job of it. Cooper Cronk does a really good job of it. Greg Alexander does a really good job of it. But listening to Kieran break down players, break down teams, break down certain plays, he is really good. And I've said this before, he would make an exceptional broadcaster. He would make an exceptional person in the media, commentating or just talking about the game in the media. And you've seen it a little bit on Fox League. You've seen it a little bit on other podcasts where he's jumped on. He has such a good high football IQ and his way of communicating it. That's an important part. You can be the smartest bloke on the field, but if you don't know how to communicate that, it's not worth a piece of shit. So his ability, it's beautiful. And for him to be an assistant coach, the communication and the intelligence, you put that together, you have a really good coach. So if he's not going down the media route, this is the route you want to see him go. This reminds me of Billy. Billy, exceptional player, played with exceptional players, was coached by exceptional coaches, takes all the experience of playing himself, translates that into being a really good, smart, young coach for Queensland. I believe Kieran will do a really good job. And I think when he gets his chance in the future, I wouldn't like to see it straight away, let him earn his stripes as an assistant coach. But when he gets his chance in the future, I think he will be a cracker of a head coach. And don't be you might be seeing Kieran Foran be one of those Des Hasler, Craig Bellamy, Wayne Bennett type of coaches, obviously a long way down the track, but he's got the goods to get there, I believe. If he chooses to take this seriously, if he chooses to then, work his way through the levels of coaching, you could see an all-time great coach on your hands, and you might be seeing the birth of it right now. All right, that's going to do it. Appreciate you tuning in. As always, I love you tuning in. I'm incredibly grateful for the listeners, for the viewers. This is why I do it, because I think I can provide some value and some entertainment and maybe a side of the story, a certain perception that maybe you didn't think about before. But appreciate you tuning in. And we'll see you next week.